رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Dear brothers and sisters, last night we started our topic on Sifatul Mu'mineen, yani characteristics of Sifatul Mu'min, characteristics of a Mu'min. There are certain characteristics, there are certain qualities that are required to be found in a Mu'min. So we have in our riwayat, we have in the Holy Quran, actually a whole surah dedicated to Al-Mu'minun, the believers. And I'm sure you have read this surah, recited this surah sometime in your life. And in the beginning of this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts this surah with this phrase, this ayah, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ means successful are the believers. Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first says successful are the believers, but He does not stop there. He does not stop there. Otherwise, the mu'mineen, the ones who proclaim the shahada, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, they would think that just by saying these words, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, they have become mu'min and they are not required to do anything else. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not stop there. He says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps on mentioning many sifat and qualities and characteristics of a mu'min. Those qualities, those characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us, wants the mu'mineen to have, to possess. Otherwise, they will not be considered mu'min. They will not achieve success in their lives. So, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, yani mu'mineen are the successful. This is a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not all the mu'mineen are successful. We should know. Only those mu'minun, those believers will be successful who will have some qualities, and those qualities, inshallah, we want to talk about in our these 10 nights or 11 or 12 nights that we are, inshallah, going to have these lectures and majalis, inshallah. So our focus is on those qualities, on those characteristics that are essential. Otherwise, if you look at the sifat of mu'mineen and muttaqeen, for example, in Nahjul Balagha, we have a whole sermon from our Imam Ali alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And inshallah, in one of the lectures, I want to bring that sermon of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and we want to discuss a few phrases from that khutbah of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And it's very important and it's very beautiful khutbah that all of us should know. All of us should know about that. Our Imam has talked about some of the qualities that he wants the mu'mineen to have. You know, there is a very big misunderstanding going on, you can say, all over the world among the Shia community, among the Shias, and that is that if you recite kalima, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah, and Aliyun Waliullah, that's enough. It's a guarantee that you would be going to the Jannah. You just say La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah, Aliyun Waliullah, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. So where is the difference between us who believe in this kind of, belief, and some of those people who believe that by killing 5 Shias you will enter Jannah? What is the difference? It looks like it is kind of same way of thinking. So it's not like that. There are some conditions. Bishartiha wa shurutiha. There are some conditions that we have to fulfill. Okay, there are riwayat whereby we have, for example, from our Imams, their sayings where they have said, our Shia would never enter Jannah. Our Shia would never enter, Jahannam, not Jannah. Our Shia would never enter Jahannam. Okay, so our Shia, focus is on the word Shia. How do you or we become Shia? Not everybody is Shia. Not everybody is Shia. Just like, for example, the person who recites kalima cannot be considered a Muslim unless and until it is coming from the bottom of his heart with sincerity, with full conviction. Then only he would be considered a Muslim in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, we cannot call anybody Muslim or kafir, for example, because we do not know what's going on in his heart, what he has in his heart. So we are talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what we have of iman and whatever we have in our heart. So a Shia is not a person just by saying La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah and Aliun Wallah. A Shia is a person who has certain qualities, certain characteristics, and we want to discuss those characteristics, inshallah, in our lectures. So yesterday we talked about one of the qualities of a mu'min is that he uses his aql. Aql means intellect. And he is a person who is not, who does not have blind kind of faith. And if you look at some religions of the world, they do not want you to think. They would ask you to just follow their instructions or whatever they have blindly. Do not question them. They do not question their, whatever beliefs they are telling you or teaching you. I want to tell you, I can give you many, many examples. For example, one of the examples would be that would not fit in our mind is, for example, believing 3 is 1. Can you believe that 3 is 1? Or 3 is equal to 1? Or 1 is equal to 3? No, you cannot. We are talking about Trinity. So, if you go and question, for example, those authorities, those people who are authority in that religion, and ask them, how would you explain this 3 is equal to 1? They would say, no, you have to have faith. You have to have faith. Even if you don't understand it. You have to have faith. But Islam does not say that. Islam doesn't say that. And if you look, let's say, for example, go to some other religions, I don't want to give you many examples, but you already may have seen or observed in your life by, for example, mixing or socializing with some adherents or followers of other religions, you would have seen that they have some strange kind of beliefs and ideas about their religion, about Allah, about God, their gods. And they do not have any explanation for that. So, does Islam fall in that kind of or category of religion? No. Islam is not like that. Islam is a religion without any mythology. There are no myths, any kind of mythology. We do not have or believe in superstitions. Islam does not entertain this kind of ideology. And if you look at the history of Islam, for example, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, one of the biggest arguments that he had with the mushrikeen was this. He would call them or invite them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with logic, and he would say, why don't you use aql? Why don't you use your intellectual power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you? Why? So, I want to now mention a few ayat of that, talking about those. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, for example, وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِنْ رِزْقٍ فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا وَالتَّصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ آيَاتٌ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ. There are so many ayat. For example, we recite Surah Ar-Rum in the month of Ramadan. In the month of Ramadan, 23rd of Ramadan, we normally recite Surah Ar-Rum. One of the surahs that we recite is Surah Ar-Rum. If you go through this surah, you would see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about some ayat. Suratun Yasin, for example. We recite this surah, mashallah, probably every Thursday, or some people would recite this surah every day. If you look at the ayat of the surah, after 15 or 20 ayat, you will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts talking about ayat. He uses these words. He says, for example, look at this, look at the motion of these stars, galaxies, this sun, the moon, and the earth. There are ayat, there are some signs in these for you. For you. So this ayat is one of those ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and in the alternation of night and day, and in the provision, God sends down from the sky, bringing earth to life by it after it has died, and in the varying direction of the winds, there are signs for people who use their intellect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned many things. We don't want to go into too much detail, but I want to just draw your attention to these things. Just see. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoken about this phenomenon on many occasions in the Holy Quran. Alternation of days, night and day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is a very big sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this. Just imagine for a minute, for a moment, that there is no rotation. The earth, for example, is still and it's not rotating. What would happen? We are alive because of the rotation of the earth. Nothing would survive in this world. There'll be constantly, in one part of the earth, there will be winter and snow, and nothing will grow there. And in one part of the earth, there will be so much heat that everybody will die. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is drawing our attention. Why don't you look at it? This phenomenon is happening in front of your eyes every day. Every day. But you don't give it any importance. And then he says, and in the provision God sends down from the sky, water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about water. Water is rizq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not use the word water. He uses the word rizq. He says, مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِنْ رِزْقٍ. The rizq is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the sky. Yani through water, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about it in other ayat. For example, he says, everything that is high, that is alive, it has got that life through water. And water is connected to oxygen. So everything is connected. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this earth which was dead alive through water. You go to a place where there is no rain, and you would see what happens there. What happens? Then he says, وَتَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ, the varying direction of the winds. Varying direction. Just one ayat. I'm just talking about only one ayat of the Holy Quran, and there are literally hundreds of ayat of such kind. And it's an irony. It's very unfortunate that we call ourselves Muslims, but we hardly recite the Holy Quran or read the Holy Quran thoroughly. We probably read sometimes the Holy Quran, but we do not use our aql to understand the message of the Holy Quran. And this is what I want to talk about. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ. These signs are for those who use their intellect. So there would be people who look like normal alive people, but they are not alive. According to Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says there are people who are walking and talking and doing normal things, but do not consider them alive. And there are people who are in their graves dead, but do not consider them dead. So death and life is not related to just breathing and eating and drinking and things like that. A person, if his aql is alive, ruh is alive, he would be alive even though his body is dead. His body is not there. A person who may have a body, but if his soul, his nafs is dead, then even though he may look like a normal alive person, he will not be considered alive, according to the logic of the Quran. And the second ayah that I recited yesterday, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ شَرَّ الدَّوَابِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الصُّمُّ الْبُكْمُ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. Yani verily the vilest of all creatures in the sight of Allah are those deaf, those dumb ones who do not use their intellect. So according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those people who do not use their aql, their intellect, they are considered as deaf and dumb. They are deaf and dumb. And then the ayah, which is very famous, one of the ayat of Ayat al-Kursi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي. और फिर कहता है खुदा, فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها والله سميع عليم. The part of the ayah قد تبين الرشد من الغي is what we want to talk about. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we have created distinctive some distinction between the right and the wrong. Right and wrong are distinct, but only those people can understand who use their aql. So now I have done some research. I have tried to find the kalimat or words related to tafakkur in the Holy Quran. And you would be surprised to see how many times the Holy Quran has used words related to ta'aqqul, yani thinking, pondering, reflecting, etc. How many times? For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He wants to use these He wants to talk about thinking, he uses albab. He uses the word aql. He uses the word fu'ad. He uses the word qalb. He uses the word sadr. He uses the word aql and ilm and so on. So, for example, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ. And the word fikr, the word burhan, all these words are related to our thinking. So for example, the word albab is used 16 times. 16 times in the Holy Quran. Albab is albab means understanding. Ulul albab, yani people of understanding. Ulul albab. Albab is from labab and lam ba, and it means lub. Lub is our brain. The person with brains, the person who use their brains, and it has been used many, many times. And I have the ayat, those ayat which talk about albab, but because of the time I cannot mention all those ayat. But we have to know that whenever there is albab at the end of ayah, usually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses these kind of phrases at the end of the ayat. So we should know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is drawing our attention, and He's asking us to use our aql, our intellect, and our thinking power. So for example, the word burhan. Burhan means evidence. Burhan means proof. It is used in Urdu also. And it's been used 8 times. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes asks us to bring some burhan or some dalil and some proof for our strange, for example, ideas, etc. So, for example, some of these mushrikeen, they would have some superstitious ideology and thinking. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would ask these mushrikeen to go and bring the burhan. And because, their beliefs were not based on aql or burhan or dalil, they would never come back. Rather, what they would do, they would start fighting. One of the alamat and signs of a jahil is that he starts fighting about something that he does not have any knowledge. He becomes enemy of something that he does not know about. One of the alamat and one of the signs of a jahil. This is. The word ilm and its derivatives have been used 854 times. 854 times, imagine. Ilm. And our Quran starts with Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa. Read in the name of Allah. Just if we could apply this ayah only in our life, our whole Islamic nation would completely change. Iqra bismi rabbik. The word jahil has been used 24 times, with its derivatives. The word Rashid means right-minded, has been used 19 times. And then hikmah 20 times. And the word ayah or ayat, which means sign, has been used 382 times. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, in this ayah says, إِنَّمَا مَثَلُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ مِمَّا يَأْكُلُ النَّاسِ. And then at the end of this ayah, it says, كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمِ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. This is one of the very beautiful ayat, and I would like to read for you this translation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the example of this worldly life is but like rain which we have sent down from the sky, that the plants of the earth absorb, those from which men and livestock eat, until when the earth has taken on its adornment and is beautified, and its people suppose that they have capability over it, there comes to it our command by night or by day, and we make it as a harvest, as if it had not flourished yesterday. Thus do we explain in detail the science for a people who give thought. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's the summary of the ayah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down water from the sky, and this water causes the earth to become lively, beautiful, green, and when the water falls during the spring season, what happens? The earth is so beautiful, very beautiful. But the same earth, if you go and look at that earth after a few months, you would not even be able to recognize, oh, this is the same place I came 4 months or 5 months or 6 months ago. Now there is nothing beautiful. Everything is gone. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the example of the life of this world is this. It is beautiful, but for a short time. Then the time of harvest will come, and you should be prepared for that. You should be ready for that. And the word aql has been used 49 times. And actually, with almost all the ahkam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word aql or similar words, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to ponder over and reflect and use our aql. Okay, with this I want to conclude the English part, but before that I would like to mention a story of from Hazrat Bahlul, Bahlul Dana. And this man who pretended to be, insane for some reasons, you would know, but he would, through his, if you look at his stories, you would find a lot of wisdom, and he, in a way, is telling us, use your aql, and if you would use your aql, you'll be able to fight with the enemy without using any kind of physical weapons. So, for example, this is a very interesting and beautiful story. It says that Bahlul once arrived at Harun's palace. Harun and Bahlul Dana, they were related. They say he was a cousin of Harun. So Bahlul would visit him sometimes. So when Bahlul entered the palace, he found him intoxicated, drinking wine. So now Harun, he was drinking wine, but at the same time he was the Khalifa. They used to call themselves as Khalifa. So he wanted to justify his drinking. He said, Bahlul, he asked the question, is it haram if one were to eat grapes? Bahlul said, no, certainly not. You are allowed to eat grapes. Then he said, how is it if one is to drink water after drinking grapes? Okay. Again, Bahlul said, nothing wrong. You can drink as much as water you like. Then he says, is there any problem or wrong if after eating grapes and drinking water one were to sit in the sun? Okay, Bahlul understood what he wanted to say. Okay, drinking is not, haram according to the Khalifa. So he brought his own example. Now it's very beautiful, and you have a very strong weapon. You can use it somewhere. Bahlul understood, and he said, look, if I say, if a little earth were to be put over the head of a person, what harm would it bring for this person? And if you put some mud, some earth, and put it on the head of a person, nothing. Then he said, if then a little water were to be, added to the earth, nothing. The Khalifa said nothing would happen. You put some earth on a person's head and you put some water on top of it, nothing would happen. But then he said, if bricks were to be made by mixing earth and water and then strike his head with it, what would happen? Asked Bahlul. He said, his head would burst and blood would come out of it. He said, this is the same thing that you are doing. You have mixed the grapes and water and you have boiled them into, made them in wine, and now it has become something haram. Otherwise, eating, drinking these things separately is not a problem. So if you use your aql, you can answer the enemies or those who are against your religion. Muhammad.